Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fully Charged Plus podcast. Wonderful guest today, Ben Sullins, old friend of the show. And Ben and I, the weird thing is we're going to meet very soon, but we've never actually met. And I feel like I know him really well. So he's been doing his own YouTube videos about initially about Tesla and data, and now about all sorts of electric cars. And he's such an amazing guy. He's got a great take on the world and how things work and how stuff works, and data, very important. But he doesn't talk about data too much. But Ben is going to be appearing at Fully Charged Live in San Diego, which is his hometown, on the 10th and 11th of September this year. So we're really excited to see him then, and I will actually meet him for the first time. It's going to be quite bizarre. He was at Fully Charged Live in Austin, Texas in 2020, but I wasn't there because I was taken ill and had to fly back home and be poorly, which is so annoying. I can't even breathe and talk about it. It's one of those things that happens in life that you just have to deal with. So we're really excited about Fully Charged Live 2022, 10th and 11th of September at the San Diego Convention Center. Amazing. It's going to be incredible. The podcast has been growing while we've been doing it regularly, and so have My Energy. I think there was 4 of them when I first met them, and there's about 500 or 600 people work there now. And I'll just quickly mention there are 2 products just for people who haven't heard me talk about My Energy before. You can find out much more on their website, myenergy.com, myenergi.com. It's worth checking that out. But the 2 products that I use on a daily basis, I've used one of them today, and this is very often the case. It's been a sunny day in the funny old United Kingdom, even though we've got a queen. It's called a kingdom. And that is the Zappy charger. So all the excess solar, of which there was quite a lot today, went into the car. And in fact, I did actually have a look. It's 42 kilowatt hours I put into a car, 42 kilowatt hours of electricity, which is about 160, 170 miles in the Volkswagen ID4. 170 miles of range for 0 cents pence. Slash pence. Zero money. And that is an impressive, and I did nothing. I plugged the damn thing in. That's all I did. I didn't do anything else. Didn't stand around fiddling with anything. Just does it automatically. So the Zappy charger is an extraordinary, essentially very simple to use, very clever bit of kit. It also charges you can set the timer on it, so it charges on off-peak times. You can set it as Eco Plus, where it will check out what is being used on the grid, and it will only charge when the grid is at its cleanest. Or you can override all that and just charge as fast as you can using grid power, and just forget it. If you need to charge it rapidly, brilliant piece of kit. Very simple to use. Very reliable. I've had one for years. They've been brilliant. And the other one that I also use, but I don't do anything to, and I didn't even see it, from 1 month to the next, is the Eddy. So that's in a little cupboard in our house, and that just steers the power where it's most useful to go. So if you have solar, these 2 products are really, really useful. So that sends power to the hot water or to the electric heating system, or wherever it needs it, or the batteries, the storage batteries we've got. And that, I don't even know to be honest, I honestly don't know what it does. But I know I'm going to be changing it a bit in the near future for the winter, so that it will send any excess solar into the thermal store electric boiler, the Tepio boiler we have. Please welcome to the Fully Charged Plus podcast, Mr. Ben Sullins. Ben, it's really good to see you. The frustration for me is we still haven't met in meet space. I cannot believe it, because I sort of Feel I know
Yeah.
you so well. I've seen you for so many years. We nearly met in Austin,
Yep.
and I had to fly home, and that was embarrassing and annoying. And now, but I will see you soon.
Yes.
Got
Yes,
my,
for San Diego fully charged, which is
yeah.
super exciting. Your team
It's
was just down here. I got to spend some
yeah,
time with them. Some
fantastic. Yeah,
lovely guys and really talented. So I think you've got some good hands there. So
yeah. Jack
yeah.
and Andy are a great team. Yeah, no, they're
Hmm.
brilliant, aren't they?
They were
No, it
telling me a
is.
story about you and how they will, if you're doing a car review, they will try to surprise you with some feature on the car because your reaction is gold. And so they will kind of keep things from you
Yeah,
until it's okay. Okay, turn the cameras on. Okay,
yeah.
Robert, here, check this out.
Oh my
What?
God,
I
it's happened
love that.
so many
It's
times. So
brilliant.
many times.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm very. I think I'm very easy to please. I think that's probably the truth of it. Yeah, it is. But also, I mean, I also now feel, to for me to do a car review of a new car I've never seen. Actually, I guess if it's a new car I've never seen, I might have something fresh to say. But Jack is
Yeah.
he's got such a way. He's so good with
Yeah.
cars. I just feel, and that's. I mean, I'm very happy for him to do it. I absolutely love it. And there's a couple of things he's done that haven't gone out yet that I'm just blown away by him. And
Yeah, no, he's a great talent. Yeah, you found,
yeah,
and if I understand, his background was pretty good. He was a car nerd,
yeah,
and then studied acting. So it's
yes,
like perfect. Just be on
yeah,
camera talking about
yeah,
cars,
yeah,
and you don't even have to act. It's just your natural what you
yes.
would be talking about doing anyways.
It's just no. So because that's a. I mean, I mean, I think that's the thing that you and I have done it enough to not remember it being a thing that you had to go, oh, I don't know how to do this. When I
Yeah.
first did TV presenting back in the long time ago, I didn't know how to do it because I'd only ever done, and I'm going to say it, fairly bad acting up there, but where you're pretending to be someone else. And so,
Right.
when the director I was working with, no, just talk like you do normally, because I was suddenly putting on a voice, because I
Yeah.
thought that's how you
Yeah.
did it. I didn't know how to do it. And
Yep.
it took a while. And Jack's just like that. He's just got it. It's just such an easy thing
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah. It's funny. It's one of the hardest things to do on camera is to be natural and
Be
to be
normal. Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, and it's funny because I mean, because you've obviously, been an actor for a long time, but like the concepts of somebody like The Rock, right? Dwayne
Yes.
Johnson, we say he's a great actor, but every role is
It's always
basically
him.
him, you know? So
Yeah.
I look at it and I go, I mean, I love him and he's great, but
Yeah.
whereas someone, like a Christian Bale or someone who will completely transform
Yeah.
who they
Yeah.
are, it's a totally different discipline,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yeah.
fascinating. So
Yeah.
I'm and because you've helped me and we've had lots of conversations about this. I'm a student of filmmaking,
Right.
right? I
Right.
I dove into YouTube with this, just my background in data, and did things, but quickly wanted to become a master of it. And so instead of trying to learn how to get clicks and all those things,
Yeah.
it was, how do I become an actual storyteller? How do I
Yeah.
become a wannabe filmmaker?
Yeah.
And so I dove deep into that. So when I see
Yeah.
someone like Jack or yourself or someone doing this, I'm always in awe of it. And it's so great, yeah. So it's been great watching you and knowing you over these years, because it's really been a pleasure. And I feel like I've learned so much.
Okay. I just I feel very inadequate to deal with that. It's when what is weird is in normal day-to-day life, I'm not aware how British I am because I'm surrounded by British people. And then as soon as I either come to America or speak to an American, I go, "Oh my God, I'm so British." Because I'm so,
Oh,
oh, no, I just always want to say, no, 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 I can't do anything. I'm stupid.
uh-huh.
I've got to tell you the story. The very first trip I ever made to America in the 1980s, I went to a dinner party in Manhattan. It was so exciting because
Yeah.
I'd never been there before. And I had dinner with about 10 people who were all arty in downtown Manhattan in
Yeah.
Soho. And they were all like artists and everything. And one of them said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I try and do stand-up comedy, but I'm really rubbish at it." And they were so upset for me, like I had a problem. oh my
Yeah.
God, you should maybe do something else, all that stuff. I go, well, I earn a living from doing it, and I'm doing it every night.
You're like, I'm actually successful at it, but
well, yeah,
my nature is to say downplay.
That. So then the guy said, the guy I was sitting next to, was amazing. He said, well, I'm a sculptor. I'm incredibly successful. I'm doing it really well. Go and see my exhibition at such and such gallery. And I went, God, he's such a show off. He's so big.
Yeah, yeah.
I go and see this exhibition. I can't get in. The queue is so huge. It's incredibly popular. I go in. The sculptures are stunning. I was absolutely amazed by it. I never met him again. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he was very
Warhol.
Successful.
It was Warhol.
His name was Andrew Warhol.
Andrew, this old guy.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Andy Warhol. But then the next time I met some other new people in upstate New York, and we were having Sunday lunch, and they said, "What do you do, Robert?" I said, "I'm one of the best stand-up comics in Britain." and I sat there like really nervous. They're not going to. And they went, "Oh my God, that's fantastic!" They were fine with it. They didn't mind that at all.
Well, I think it's a generational thing too, right? Over the years, I think people's attitudes towards this change. I know I'm 40 years old now, so I'm not the youngest guy on YouTube, but the younger folks out there definitely have that sort of demure, I don't know, I'm not special, it's cool, whatever. And then they're massively popular, right? They have millions and millions of people following them, but they act like it's no big deal. Right. And like, I don't know if it's being American or my age, but if I have any minute form of success, I walk around like,
telling everyone,
I did it, guys, look at that. Right. I don't know. It's the culture you're raised in. It's the era you're raised in. It's what's going on in the world during that time. Like,
I think the British invented false modesty, because it's often very, and I try and do it. Now if I meet people here who ask, what do you do, Robert? And I go, well, I run this thing on YouTube. It is a hard thing to say. Well, particularly with my background of like what I used to call proper television, but broadcast TV.
Right.
So I could say that, and they go, "What's that on BBC?" Then they go, "Oh, I've got it. You're then in a slot, and they can do." It. But if you do, I'm really old and I do YouTube. It just sounds weird. There's quite a lot of people watch.
I have the best story about that. My neighbor, they have a 7-year-old, and when we first met, they moved in not too long ago, and he said, "Hey, so what do you do?" I said, "Oh," in thinking it's a 7-year-old. Saying I'm a YouTuber will impress him, right? I say that, and his immediate reaction is he's starstruck. He's, oh my God, really? Oh, he's just so. And then he said, well, what do you do? I'm like, oh, well, I basically review electric cars. And his expression just completely goes the opposite. I just from starstruck and awe to just dread. He said, "Oh, I thought you were a real YouTuber." And I was just like, "Oh, God.
They know how to cut you down."
Oh
my goodness!
I said, "Okay, forget it. From now on, I'm a banker. All right, just something boring. Just something that they'll not ask questions about."
Yeah. But then your stuff, because I loved what I just would want to cover how what you do has changed, because I remember coming across you and I was fascinated because it was that different take, which was very much about economics and statistics and data and what really works and how it works. And I know you've moved on from that. I completely understand. It's definitely not a criticism, but can you explain what so that's the world you came out of was, I mean, if I said data analyst, would that describe you at all? Or is that about?
No, that's a very good. Yeah. I tend to say data science just because it sounds fancier, but and it seems to be the term people use more, but data analyst is actually a very good description. So my whole career, prior to doing anything online or doing anything successful online, was working with companies to pull their data together, to make sense of it and help them answer or ask questions of it, to then make better decisions. So it was all about making better decisions with data. And so we do this as humans every single moment of our lives. Right now. We're always predicting what's happening based on the knowledge and the experience we have. But in a business, we don't those mechanisms aren't naturally there.
Right.
So a lot of businesses run basically on their gut instinct, right? Like think about Red Dwarf, like the writers or the producers probably would decide where the narrative is going.
Yeah.
I don't know if they sat down and had large group studies and millions of data points of what part of the story that people engaged with more or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how we should make the show. So most companies are like that, where they just kind of they've had some success, they know what works, and they just stick to it.
Yeah.
And it was in the 80s when that all started to change and storage of information started to get cheaper.
Yeah.
And so once we could store infinite amounts of information for relatively cheap dollars, then we now had the ability to learn from what we had done before. So my whole career, and I started, in 1998 doing this,
right,
with a company called MCI, which isn't even around anymore. It was a large telecommunications company at the time.
You're right. I remember them, and you're right. They don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge accounting scandal.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was just crazy. Right. Yeah, there was a big accounting scandal, bankruptcy, all this stuff, nonsense. Then they got bought by Verizon and now whatever. So anyway, so I started there. That was my whole career. I did that for 20 years, just about.
Wow.
And then when I transitioned to YouTube, my take on YouTube, because I get this question a lot. If I go to a Tesla service center, I get mobbed with people asking me about their YouTube channel they want to start. Yeah. And so which I'm generally supportive of, because I think it can lead to a lot of really great things. But the answer always is bring a fresh perspective to an already popular conversation.
Yeah.
So that's what I found. So if I tried to start a conversation on YouTube about something that wasn't popular, that wasn't already a big topic that millions of people are interested in, no one would care. Because I am not that special, right?
Yeah.
I am not Casey Neistat, where it's just you're fascinated watching him. He's so entertaining. So people that want to start a channel, and this is what I did, is you have something you're interested in. For me, I at that time already owned a Tesla for a year, and I was fascinated with it. And so then I brought my perspective, which was this data background, into that conversation. And there wasn't anyone else at the time that I knew of doing that really in the way I was doing it. So I think that's where it all came from, was bringing a new angle to an already popular topic.
Right. Yeah. Which worked. I mean, it caught my attention, and I had no contact with you before that. I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know what, and somehow that is the mystery now when I look back. How on earth did I come across you? I have no idea.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
It just would have, you would have appeared, I guess, on the right hand side on the feed. Yeah.
And I think the first video of yours I saw, it wasn't a car thing. It was in Dubai or in the Middle East somewhere. It was a city that was completely sustainable.
Yes, the whatever they called it, the sustain, because it's actually now doubled in size. It's got bigger.
Oh, has it? Yeah. And they recycled all their water. Everything. And something about how it was structured, reduced the temperature by 20 degrees. It was fascinating.
No, it was.
And it's funny because to me, I mean, I was, like, I'm not a car guy. I never have been a car guy. I know that's basically what I do, is review cars now. Yes. But really, I was more of a clean energy guy. I was fascinated with this idea of basically kind of living off the land, but not in a Amish, archaic, ancient kind of way, in a high-tech way, where you have electricity and you have these things. So that's when I discovered Fully Charged, and I've been hooked ever since. Admittedly, I don't watch as many of the car reviews because it'll be some car that's like not here in the US or something like that. But anytime there's other stuff there, I'm always diving in, or anytime I see you in the thumbnail, I'm there. So that's how it all started, really. And then now I've really tried to become or do my best impression of a real car reviewer. And my wannabe Jeremy Clarkson kind of, and like it brings storytelling into it, and make it more exciting. Because I really feel, I'm curious your thoughts on this. I really feel that most of not to put anyone on a blast, but most of the car reviews I watch are really boring, and they're only for extreme car nerds. The things they talk about, no one really cares about.
Yeah.
Like who makes the suspension, how the sway bar is designed differently. I don't think 99% of people care.
No, and you're absolutely right. No, it always makes me think of my brother, who is an automotive engineer, or he's retired now, but he would discuss, the company that makes exactly that, the sway bar, and they used to be brilliant, but now they've really got.
Yeah,
I can't even see what you're talking about. It's underneath the car. I
couldn't point to it if you showed it to me. Picking it out of a lineup of parts, I wouldn't know what it is. So my take, and the reason I evolved from just really focusing on the data to what I do now is because I realized, and this is a harsh reality for someone like me whose life and career has been dependent on data, is people aren't convinced of things by numbers.
Right.
We are humans are moved and called and change their mind from emotion.
Yeah.
And so this is where storytelling is the key.
Yeah.
Right. You can watch a documentary on something, and how it's done can completely change your perspective on the world. Yeah. That's incredible. But I could throw statistics at people all day long about stuff, and it just doesn't matter. So that's why I kind of evolved my content in that way, because my whole goal is just to get people excited about electric cars. Yeah. So that way they'll get into one, whether it's a $100,000 Porsche or whether it's a used Nissan Leaf, whatever it is, showing the joy of going electric is really what it's about. Yeah. And I try to bring in data and comparison and structure things, but really it's the emotion and the story that I think get people excited.
Yeah, because one of the things I want, because I know you've got a Rivian, so I'm only slightly suffering a slight amount of emotional pain and jealousy, but I would love to know your journey with Tesla, because that's how I just connected you when I first met you. Yeah. You just knew so much about Tesla, about the company, about what they were doing and all that.
Yeah.
And I feel you've moved on.
Yes.
Bit. And I'd love to know what that is, because I have spent the last, 9 years since I've had Teslas, desperately trying not to be a Tesla fanboy and go on about them. And then the other day, we have quite a new. We only had it a couple of weeks. A Volkswagen ID4.
Yeah.
And the reason we got it, to be honest, I don't know if I even want Volkswagen to say it, because I don't want to upset Volkswagen. But the reason we've got it is because that's what the leasing company could find.
Oh,
so it wasn't like we've got to have an ID4. It was like, but we've got an ID4. And I'm actually really pleased. I've just been driving it today.
Yeah.
But when my wife's driven that and she gets back in the Tesla, she just goes, Tesla's just a better car. That's it. And she doesn't want to. I say, why? I don't know. It just is. She's not interested in.
Acceleration is what it is. I mean, it just, you hop in the Tesla and it just goes and it feels like a dream. I mean, I love Tesla. I really do. I think.
So have you still got one now? Have you got a Model Y? Have you got? I can't remember.
Model Y. Yeah, my wife drives the Model Y. I drive the Rivian R1T currently. Right. I sold my Model S. Model S is still my favorite Tesla they've ever made.
Right.
Not the one with the rectangle steering wheel, but with the full steering wheel.
Yeah.
And I think for me, my transition away from Tesla or beyond Tesla, I would say, because it's funny. There's a giant community there, and I love and respect them, and they are so down deep in the weeds of all the stuff happening, and I'm trying to be the club promoter. I'm outside trying to get people to come into the electric party.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the real detailed stuff about, there's a new water fountain at the German factory. Like, okay, woo. Like some people care, and that's cool. And just like some people care about the sway bar, but I'm trying to get people excited. And so in that regard, Tesla really hasn't done a lot in 3 or so years. I mean, Plaid is new, I guess, but it's still basically the same car on the outside. Yeah. So most people wouldn't know the difference. But they announced Cybertruck and they haven't delivered or announced anything since.
No.
And so to me, it was almost out of necessity, but really it was more about I'm excited about electric cars for the climate reason.
Yeah.
Right. And then of course they're awesome, most of them, but climate was the thing. And so when Ford called me and said, "Hey, we have an electric Mustang we're making. Do you want to come drive it?"
Yeah.
The answer is of course, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And then second off, I go, you're making a Mustang electric and you're making it an SUV.
Yeah.
You guys have absolutely gone mad. Like you are cutting off your leg here. This is not going to go well.
Yeah.
And so when other companies really started to make compelling electric vehicles, not the Nissan Leafs and Chevy Bolts of the world, I just felt compelled, and they were calling me asking. I thought this is great because this is what it's about. Is and I know we probably see eye to eye on this. There's not one car for everyone. Right.
No.
Like there are different reasons why you would want an ID4 versus a Model 3 or Model Y. They have different characteristics, and some people like them for different reasons. So like Ford is a great example. I met a guy not too long ago that has a Mustang Mach-E. And I said, "Oh, why'd you get that?" He said, "I'm a Ford guy. I've had Ford trucks my whole life. We had a Ford Explorer, and I was tired of paying for gas, and so we got this, and here we are."
Right.
And I'm like, so there you go. Right. So there needs to be a huge array of options.
Yeah.
Because not everyone is going to fall in love with Tesla like I did, like you did, and like all of us have done. And then Elon has not been helping at all. People fall in love with Tesla either.
No.
I really have flipped my thinking on him. I think that they need to get a regular CEO in there.
Quite a dull person. Someone who's dull but can do the job.
Well, the VW CEO just got, I don't know if he got fired or if he left or whatever, but he would be a great guy.
He's very good. Yeah.
You could literally just put anyone in there and then let Elon go start his own companies and make robots or whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
He's entitled to that. He's earned that. He's done such an amazing thing for the world.
Yeah.
But I legitimately am worried about his impact on Tesla because of his public persona, as well as the direction he takes things, like a focus on delivering absurd amounts of cars regardless of quality. Like that kills me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think like I started to cover other cars because it was just made sense, and that's what I want to be doing. I want to get people excited about it. And then Tesla hasn't done a lot in the past few years, so they're really outside of the really minute details about what's going on in the company. Hasn't been much. There's not a new car for me to review.
Because when did I still think of the Y as relatively new, simply because we haven't had it here. That it's been here now probably a year. But I still think of that as a new one. But actually, I can't remember when did you get
2020 we got
right.
Ours.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're going on 2 years owning it.
Yeah. But I mean that you're right about that and I think things like the Ford F-150, the Rivian have really highlighted. Wait a minute, aren't Tesla doing something? What are they doing with a truck? Didn't they make a huge amount of noise about that truck?
Yes. Where is it?
It's really become sort of, it's really been underlined that we've just put out a review of the F-150, and it's kind of, you go, that's pretty awesome. And
it's incredible.
One of the things I heard on a call, and I'm just trying to remember what it was. It was a conference here, but there was someone from Ford in the United States. It was online. It was an online conference. So someone from Ford in the US who described the TV commercial that was on the Super Bowl with for the F-150, where you saw all the normal things in a car TV commercial: a truck going up dirt track, kicking up dirt, woman driving it, all that stuff. And then the guy drives into his house, gets out, plugs it in, goes into his house, and there's a power cut in the city, and he goes blip on his app, and the lights come on in the house. And they said that moment, they reckon, sold them 100,000 trucks. They said they were flooded with orders, and it wasn't about how good it was off road or it was towing. All those things they showed that was fine. People were I'm sure that, but it was that kind of next step from a gas truck. You can do that with a gas truck if you fit a generator on it, but you're not going to leave a gas truck running in your garage.
Well, and you'll run out of gas eventually, right? Where you could have solar panels that'll fill it back up.
It will fill it back up. Yeah.
The F-150 Lightning is one of the most probably the most important EV since
Yeah.
the original Model S.
Yeah.
I think the original Model
in the
S.
USA, I think we ought to add that
Sure.
onto it.
Yeah. So the F-150 has been the most popular individual vehicle selling for the past 40 something years here in the US.
Extraordinary.
They sell about 1 million of them a year.
Wow.
And for them, I mean, this is where I was actually on stage at a thing with Chris Payne, who killed the electric car.
Yeah.
I was on with him and we were talking and they were asking us, and someone asked me about the legacy automakers and which ones will survive this transition, right? Because there's a big thought that like they're all going to go out of business, which I think is silly. But which one is really going to do it? And back then I said Ford, and people were confused. They said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "They just made their most valuable piece of property, the Mustang brand, an electric SUV." That takes balls. Like it takes a lot of courage to do that. And then their next one was the F-150.
Yeah.
Like if these fail, the company's gone.
Yeah.
There is no more Ford Motor Company. And this is the company that basically invented cars, or the assembly line and all that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mass production of cars as we know it. Yeah. So that's insane. So there's some people up there that really see the future and see it well and are making big moves. And the F-150 Lightning is incredible. It's not nearly as fun as my Rivian, but it is far better as a truck than my Rivian ever will be, right? It won't beat a Porsche 911 in a drag race, but when it comes to all the other reasons why you buy a truck, it is just far and away better. Now, the Silverado EV I had a chance to look at a couple months ago as well, and I didn't get to drive it. That is another level as well. So I think when that comes out, there will be a good amount of competition between the Chevy Silverado EV and the Ford Lightning, because the Lightning is boring in a way, in a good way. Almost like the ID4 is boring. Like it's a great car, but there's nothing you're super excited about. Same with the Lightning. Like, it has some really cool features, but it's very just utilitarian. It's not.
Which is what it should be. That's what it's meant to be.
Yeah. But the Silverado is still very utilitarian, but is also very sexy and fun and all kinds of crazy. So I think it's just such a great time that we're in. I mean, when you started doing this, and you were in it long before I was.
2 or 3 cars in the world. Yeah. I mean, there was a Tesla Roadster basically, and a. Well, we had in this. No, that was even before. And Nissan Leaf came out.
Yeah,
they were built in 2010, I suppose. The one I've got was built in 2010, but it came out here in 2011. So even that wasn't around in 2010. Though we had a thing called the. I just remembered the name now. I've forgotten it. A really tiny little electric city car with lead acid batteries. The G-Wiz. It was made in India. There were hundreds of them in London. They were nowhere else, because it did about 40 miles on a charge. It had a 3-pin. It had a domestic. You had to plug it into a domestic thing.
Yeah.
And I remember walking down a street one day and seeing one. So this would have been 10 years old in London, 10 or more years ago. And I saw one and I went, God, they're just so naff, those things. And a very, very fashionable young woman walked over the road and got in it and drove off. And I went, oh no, maybe they're not so stupid. If you're driving across London, you're never going above 10 miles an hour anyway. If you can do 40 miles, you can go anywhere and back. It's not, and you're so slow because the traffic is so bad.
Yeah.
And also, you want to park a car in London, if you had an F-150, you've really got a challenge. But if you've got a G-Wiz was about as long as a tiny desk. It's tiny.
Isn't it? Is that one of those ones? I remember someone telling me about this with the smart car. Which, and Car2Go, which I think is a German company.
It is, yes.
Yeah. And they were so small that you could park them.
Oh, park them sideways. Yeah.
Sideways, because they were basically square, right? They were just as long as they were wide.
They were as long as most cars are wide. Yeah. No, this woman, when she got in that car, I forgot to say that, it was parked sideways in the street. Yeah. And we're talking a London street, so a quarter the width of an average American street, very narrow, and it still fitted in there. And she sort of off she went in this, I went, that's it was an interesting person to see driving it. You just think, you're quite bright if you're doing that, because you're the cost of her having a car in London, and it,
Right.
have a road tax scheme and all those things makes cars very expensive. None of that applied to this little thing. I mean, it wasn't safe. I think it's fair to say. It looked like it was made out of an egg box. That is not a solid looking car.
They just went to the hardware store and threw it together in an afternoon.
Yeah,
and
it was very basic. Yeah, but anyway, that was So back then there was very little choice.
Yeah. I think that the place I'm at now, which is kind of interesting, is I just came across this company, and I forget what they're called, but they're based out of Arizona, and they're taking a few square miles and making a carless town. Like, not city, because it's just small, but you'll have your grocery store there, you'll have your school there, you'll have your entertainment there, your restaurants, all this stuff. And the one thing that they have no places for cars,
right,
for you to even have like, you'd have to park it on the street outside of the city.
Right.
And so I think that's maybe a miss, but I love the idea of this where you can, because, and to quote Elon, he said the best part is no part. So we're all focused on electrifying transportation, but really I feel like redesigning our cities to not need cars is the better answer, really. Of course, that's a much more difficult thing to do.
It's a hard sell.
But London is probably a good example where I imagine a lot of people in London don't own cars, or like for example.
And I lived in London. I lived there for 14 years. I didn't have. I arrived in a car and I left in a car, but in the gap between, I didn't have a car because what was the point? It was really annoying. It was a hassle. It was problematic. You didn't want it. And I when I first arrived there, when I moved there, I had a little van, and I just never I realized I don't use it. I was on my bike, or was on the bus, or on the subway, or whatever. So I gave it to someone eventually, because it was. When I say I gave it to someone, I wasn't being generous. It was literally falling to pieces. Yeah, please have it. Yeah, but you're right, and I think the big moves that we're seeing, the one that's surprising. So the obvious cities like in the Netherlands, where they've always had a very strong cycling culture, and they've really moved, some cities. But the one that really surprises me is Paris, because I spent a lot of time in Paris when I was young, and it was just insane traffic, quite fun, because it was just, I couldn't believe it coming from this country. So if you needed to park in a space and it wasn't that much room, you bashed into the car in front, you pushed it forward, bashed into the one behind until you could get in there. And I was in cars with friends who did that. And I went, you can't do that. What are you doing? That was normal. That has absolutely transformed. A street that would have had cars parked almost on top of each other either side and busy screaming traffic down the middle. There's now one lane for cars. There's no parking anywhere. The rest is pedestrian or bikes. And there's thousands of bikes. This is right in the center. And they're getting ready for the Olympics. So they've got the Olympics in 2024, I think. Whenever it is. And so they're trying to have an entirely, so all their ground transport, public transport is electric now, the buses.
And the subway there is incredible. I know I've only been to Paris once. It was for a week, pre-kids and everything, when we were young and spry and could do all the fun things to do in Paris. And I remember doing that. We were staying right near Notre Dame, and we just took the metro everywhere. And I remember we would go out and, have wine and drinks or something until 2-3 in the morning. And you just go to a metro station, and when's the next one coming? In 5 minutes. It was never more than a 5-minute wait. Anywhere we went, they were quiet, they were clean, they were wonderful. So I think that's the right answer, really. If we want to reduce our climate impact from our transportation sector, electrification is good.
It's a good step.
In somewhere like the US, it's so big and we're so spread out. Cars, it's hard to build public transportation because it's just so spread out and big. But a lot of, if we can start to redesign our cities in ways that don't require any transportation, or even if it's and you might know the numbers on this better than I, but I would not be surprised if a gas or diesel bus filled with people is not better than an electric car for each individual person. Like, it's probably still better emissions wise.
I don't know about emissions, but certainly in overall impact. If you think you've got to make, I don't know what, 40 cars, let's say 40 electric cars, or those 40
One
people all
bus.
go on one bus.
Yeah.
I think it's probably. I mean, I think in terms of its actual running, diesel. If it's a diesel bus, the thing is,
That's the worst.
It can easily be an electric bus, in which case it's way better.
Yeah,
it's massive. Or an electric tram. If it's a tram,
there you go. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So getting to that point, I think is the better approach. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but there was a company in Arizona, in Tempe, Arizona, and outside of Phoenix, that is doing that, and I just thought that's such a cool idea, And we have a big problem here. There's actually, and I want to shout out to one of my favorite YouTube channels. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Climate Town.
Oh no, I'm writing that down. Right.
There's a guy. He's incredibly funny. His name's Raleigh Williams, and he's a climate scientist, and he was a grad student. Now he's graduated, so I don't know.
Right.
But anyways, educated guy, hilarious, makes incredible videos, and he talked about one of the big reasons why we have a car culture here is because of the zoning in the US, where most cities are zoned to only allow you to build single family homes. So you cannot build a 20-story building,
apartment block, right?
Yeah, you can't. So it's illegal, and there's all kinds of like really nasty reasons why in the U.S. history that exists. But point being, those laws still exist today,
right?
So in a lot of cases, that's just car culture was created because of the housing regulations, and so trying to dig ourselves out of that is a much harder thing than trying to say, hey, here's this really sexy electric car, because that is something we can get behind. People can go, yes, I want to do that.
I mean, it's even that thing where it was my first trip to Los Angeles. I stayed with some friends in Echo Park in Los Angeles, up in the hills. An amazing couple, and they lent me their bicycle, so I cycled around. That's how you learn a city. Just cycle around Los Angeles. Oh my God, because I didn't feel unsafe. But clearly, when this was in the mid-'80s, when someone who's driven every day of their lives in Los Angeles saw someone on a bicycle, they basically just slammed on the brakes and started skidding behind me. And I'm going, no, I'm not doing anything. You can go past, plenty of room. But anyway, but one of the things I learned there and then read a lot about was the tram network, which I had no idea. But I mean, Los Angeles was, because I would have thought you glance at Los Angeles from anywhere and it's a city built around the car. But then when you actually look at the history of Los Angeles, it was a city built around the tram. And all the boulevards, certainly in the older parts, all the boulevards and all the cross streets all had tram lines. And it was only when I crossed over, it was actually Sunset Boulevard, I wanted to buy a real American burger because I'd never had one. I saw like not a McDonald's, like I can't remember what it was anyway. So I got off my bicycle and crossed on a pedestrian crossing proper, where you're meant to cross safely. And in the middle of the boulevard, in the middle, was some tracks, some rail lines. And they were still there, and they had flower beds built on top of them. But there was this little section where you could see. And I go, that was trains.
Wait a minute.
It's trams. And then I remembered old silent movies where you see a tram going along a street with a car, and Buster Keaton is going to crash into it, but he escapes or whatever.
Right.
That was filmed in Los Angeles when there were trams, which then I looked at the history of trams, and it's pretty brutal. That was a General Motors. I mean, people can look up the history, but General Motors basically bought the tram companies that were popular.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, right in a sentence. They bought the entire tram network that was incredibly popular and making money. They bought it and they rolled all the rolling stock to one end and they set fire to it on day one. They burnt everything. And they introduced petrol buses with tires. So it was Goodyear and General Motors. Yeah, so that you could catch a bus instead of a tram, and that is the
history there is pretty insane. Yeah, and there was a thing. General Motors also was the one I think behind, and we're just going to bash General Motors for a few minutes here. It was a World Fair. I want to say it was in New York, and there was a thing called Futurama, I believe. And it was this ride that you would take, and they showed these mega cities with all the freeways going everywhere and multiple lanes and bridges in this fantastic future, all based around cars.
Individual cars.
And so people go there, they see this, they leave there thinking, wow, I can't wait for this future with all these wonderful cars. Let me go buy a new Thunderbird or whatever they were selling at the time. And it's like that led to actual legislation to build that thing. And then once you build that, now people have to buy cars to get anywhere because you can't walk anywhere. There's no more public transit. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, like, America is just a car country. There's no going back at this point, you know?
Yeah, I think so. It's where it started in a way. I mean, the one thing that might be the next generation, if you like, that might change things is sharing them. And all the technology that's developing around there, because there's some projects I'm seeing, and we're going to do a show about one of them, where car sharing. This is like almost beyond electric cars, although actually already electric cars are playing a big part in it. But where there are sort of small areas. If you imagine a city block, and within that city block, there's an app that you get if you live in that, where you can share all the cars that are owned by the people in that city block. But someone up the road can't do it. Someone in another town, they can't use it. So that means when you drive the Chevy belonging to Mrs. Brown on the corner, she knows you've got it. You know it's her car. You bring that car back in good condition. You've got to see her the next day at the grocery shop. You know, so and there's already an organisation doing that in Oxford in the UK. And it's incredibly successful and sort of well-educated, wealthy, middle-class people with children are selling their cars because on the Tuesday, they use the Renault Zoe to go to the store and drop off something at mum's house. And on the Friday, they get the Range Rover with the big child seats already fitted in it, and they go off for the weekend or whatever it is. You know, but they're not stuck with one type of car. They've got a whole range of them. And it's because it's that very localized area. So far, there haven't been problems where you know, someone's trashed their neighbor's car and they didn't care and they didn't refill it.
That's interesting. Yeah. So it's like Airbnb for cars, right? Where you're
but very local Airbnb. It's like I think that was the key that I went, because all the time she was explaining to me, I was going, someone's going to take it. And they go, no one you can't join them unless you live in this tiny little area, and so it's all, and so they know where all the cars are. They're all parked out there, and there's they're talking about within a few months there were more places to park because people go, let's get rid of the bloody car, we don't need it.
That's interesting. And
that could work in the USA because means you can get a car when you need it, but you don't have to have it all the time. But I mean, I think it's going to happen in Europe first if it happens at all.
I do wonder about just the culture, you know, because there's something here like the whole, you know, I mean, Tesla and Elon have been selling this idea that your car will go drive around and make you money, right? This robo-taxi idea, which I think is, I don't, in that regard of how Tesla's selling it, I don't think will happen for a long time. There are other people really doing it, but it's a different animal. But you know, the objection I always had to that idea was, I'm not going to let anyone get in my $130,000 sports car
that goes incredibly fast.
Why would I ever? If I can't afford it, I wouldn't buy it, right? But if I can afford a Tesla Model S Plaid, why am I going to? No, like I just don't. I don't see that being a thing. And then people, would think, oh well, I'm going to buy a fleet of them and then rent them out and stuff. Fine. Now you operate a taxi company. This is not new at all. Like this has just been around forever, So it's really interesting. I don't know where it's gonna shake out. And obviously it'll be very different in different parts of the world, right? But yeah, the idea here that you would let someone else take your car go somewhere, I don't know if that would fly with a lot of Americans. It's hard to imagine, Some people maybe, but on mass scale, I don't know, man. It'd be a hard sell, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think you're right, and I think it'll be a generational thing and also a technological thing. So that if you can, the one bit of autonomous vehicle technology that I can see that working is actually Volkswagen. Quite a long time ago, it was an e-Golf that had been, it had stuff on the roof and it could drive itself, but not very far. And this was in a big car park, I think, in Stuttgart in Germany. and you saw a guy drove in this e-Golf, and he got out. He didn't even shut the door. He was like on the phone. He was doing really bad acting, like when when corporate people do acting. So he's like being on the phone. He just walked away. Door was open. The door shut itself. The wing mirrors closed in, and it drove itself round the car park where we were standing, and it then parked in a space, and it had an induction charger. So it parked and was charging. And that was so you don't have to, you just use the car. And I thought, if that could work, so their whole argument was the insurance industry will never insure. This is probably 8 years ago, but they won't insure a car that's driving itself that you're in. It's too risky. But they will insure an empty car that is driving to get you, so that there's no one in it. So the choice that the car has is, do I destroy myself or the little boy who's running across the road?
Yeah.
I'll destroy myself, because no one in the car, it doesn't matter. So it just smashes itself into a post, or I don't know.
Right.
Blows itself up. And that was the idea of that. And then I thought that I could imagine as an old man, I'm going, I've got to go down the shops, and I press the button on my weird floppy phone or whatever it is. The iPhone 90.
Yeah, right.
Is made of mist. Anyway, and the car just pulls up outside my house, and I get in it, and I drive it to the shop.
Okay.
And I get out, and it drives away. I don't have to park it. I don't have to service it. I don't have to insure it. That relationship with the car, I can see that happening. But while I'm in it, it's my responsibility. My insurance covers me for driving it. You have to be insured to drive it. Blah 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 blah. Then I can sort of see that. But the fully autonomous car, which has been discussed for so long, and it hasn't really.
Yeah, there was that DARPA challenge. What is it, the 90s or something, where they were doing it like and they did, I think, a Hummer and stuff. They did it through the desert and all that. It's a really interesting thing, and but however, there are companies that have them, right? Waymo, Cruise, I think Argo is the other one. There, where it, like in San Francisco, there are actual vehicles pulling up
on the road with no one in them,
with no one in them, and then it takes them around. There was a really funny clip recently, I don't know if you saw, of one of them getting pulled over by a cop because it didn't have its lights on, I think, or something like that. And so the cop pulls it over. This is the and it's funny because I talked to Waymo. I was going to go up there and do some stuff, and they said, just be aware, filming an autonomous vehicle is kind of like filming a wild animal, like it does its own thing. So so this cop pulls it over. Yeah. So this cop pulls it over, and the car, because it doesn't have lights on, walks up. No one's in it, and he's looking around, going, "What's going on?" And a customer service person pops into the audio to say, "Hey, hey, we see you pulled it over. What's going on?" You say, "Oh, the lights aren't on. Blah blah blah." And he says, "Okay, cool." And so then they turn on the lights, and then the cop goes back to his car and turns off the sirens to do some paperwork and come back, right, to give him a ticket. Well, when the sirens went off and the cop walked away, the car thought, I'm good to go. So it just took off. It's just gone.
I want to see that. Wow.
Yeah. And then so he flipped his lights back on, and then it gets across the intersection and pulls over again. So it knew what it was doing, but it very much was like, there's so it's really interesting. I think that transition will be fascinating. I fully do not expect a $35,000 electric car that me and you can buy to be autonomous like that.
No, I don't think so.
But
no.
I mean, maybe in 30, 50 years, I don't know. But I do see it being possible to have these cars in a geo-fenced area where they know it really, really well. They know all the roads, they know the construction, being able to do this, and San Francisco is a great example where the streets are very difficult to drive, but you're also like London, you're not going above 20, 30 miles an hour.
Right.
So the risk is also relatively low. You're not doing 90 miles an hour on a freeway. Where one wrong move and you're dead. So I think I could see it in a very gradual way. Autonomous vehicles, fully autonomous vehicles coming, like Paris or London would be a great example. Just a little black cab that you hop in, and it has a very known route, and it just goes there, almost like a bus, like an automated bus, or a tram or something.
But certainly I can see maybe trucks as well, long distance trucks in a way, if you can do a safe autonomous version of that, I don't know, that's a possibility. Interesting, just a quick side note, because an engineer I spoke to recently who are developing vertical takeoff and landing small electric aircraft, they say autonomous flying so much easier. And you sort of think autonomous flying, it's going to be really hard. No, it's really easy from a point of view of programming it, because of having AI and learning, because it's flying along and there's an obstacle, so it can stop, it can go up, down, left, right. It has so many choices of how to go around that obstacle, and also it can see miles in every direction without any problem at all.
And there's no traffic.
And
there's no traffic. Yeah. By design, you're not flying on the same plane as someone else, right?
And it's unlikely you're going to see a dog run out across in front of you when you're at 5,000 feet. But anyway, so that was interesting to see.
That was always that's a great point. And it comes to mind when Tesla released Smart Summon, where it'll go through a parking lot. Yeah. Or I'll say it will attempt to go through a parking lot. Yes. It doesn't always work. That to me was a really interesting move, because I remember thinking about that, going, a parking lot has to be one of the most difficult things to navigate.
Yeah.
Granted, you're going slow. There's no lane lines. Cars will drive all over,
pull out all over
without any rules.
Yeah.
People are all over the place. Yeah. Dogs, kids. It's just, it has to be. Whereas like a freeway,
everything's going one way. Yeah.
It's pretty defined how it's going to go. Whereas a parking lot, it's all up for grabs. And so I thought that was a really interesting move. But yeah, I love the idea you said of the Volkswagen one, where it reminds me of maybe like a Batman mode or something, where he calls his car and it comes and picks him up, right? That kind of a thing. I love that. Yeah, you go, because we have a lot of places, like I'm sure, well, I don't know where you live now, but like down in London and stuff, where parking is a nightmare. So how great would it be just to drive there, hop out,
amazing.
A car does, I don't care what it does. It could drive around the whole time. And then when I'm ready to go, it comes and picks me up.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Yeah. But tell me about there was something you mentioned. Well, the Hummer, because have you actually driven the electric?
Yes.
I basically, just very quickly, when we made Junkyard Wars in Los Angeles for a week, I had I guess a civilian Hummer, like a ragtop. But just huge thing, because we did a hill. I know why now. We did a hill climbing machine. So we went out to the desert. It was a really steep hill, and the teams had to build a machine that would climb this hill. So they got a Hummer so that we could show what the Hummer. Of course, the Hummer got up this hill with like it wasn't there. It was no problem at all.
Right, no problem.
But I drove a Hummer around Los Angeles for a week. And even back then, when I was so embarrassed. Even in Los Angeles, because I would kind of come up to a crossing. What do you call a pedestrian crossing in America? I've forgotten. Where
intersection?
No, but where human beings can a crosswalk. Thank you.
Yeah,
go up to a crosswalk, and some really trendy sort of goths with tattoos and black t-shirts kind of walked across and looked at me like I was the biggest. Dog poo on the planet. And I was sitting there in this machine going with this huge diesel engine.
Yeah.
Oh God. Pull my hat down.
And the diesel engine is right next to you in the middle of the car.
It's just thing. Massive gearbox, the size of a hatchback car. The gearbox.
Weren't they awful? Like, I don't think people understood how terrible the original Hummer car. Like, they were uncomfortable. They had no space. No. Like, everything about it sucked. I don't know. Other than the only reason to buy a Hummer was for the attention, for the flashiness.
I guess so. Yeah.
Right? That was the only reason why I would actually buy, or Arnold Schwarzenegger did it, but whatever. So I drove the electric Hummer.
Electric Hummer, right?
It shouldn't exist. It's absolutely absurd.
That's your thumbnail title. It's car shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it really is. It's silly. But it's kind of like how Tesla comes out with these way over the top versions of a thing,
Yeah.
only to scale it down to the,
Sensible
for us
stuff.
terrestrials. Yeah, kind of like the Rivian. The Rivian's this way. Like
Yeah.
the Rivian is a great truck, and I absolutely love it. But it is absurd. No one needs to go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds in a 7,000 pound, like a 3,000 kilo, truck. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And the Hummer is very much like that. It's just it's absurd in every way on purpose. And that should be their slogan: absurd in every way. And I mean, in that regard, I think it's super cool that this exists.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone should reasonably consider buying. I just don't, But when they come out with the GMC Sierra EV based on the same platform, yes, that it would be a great truck. Or the Chevy Silverado EV, which is based on the exact same platform as well. Like they said that the Chevy Silverado EV should get 400 miles of range. And I'm going, and it's $100,000, but still, it was a lot of money, admittedly. But if you wanted to buy a really high end truck here in the U.S. right now, my dad just bought a Dodge Ram, or just a Ram, I guess it's called now, and it was $93,000. So $100,000, it's not an absurd amount of money
for that kind of car.
Truck. Yeah, exactly. It is a lot of money, but for what you're getting, it's not absurd.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, I'd love to have a go in one, because I remember driving. Well, the thing I do remember about the Hummer, when we went to this area, wherever it was like 200 miles outside of Los Angeles. I have no idea, some sort of deserty place, but where you could drive trucks. That was the whole point. Yeah, dirt. That's a kind of dirt. I don't know what it was, but when you drove that thing, you're on a proper road, and then you see the guy and he waves, and you turn off, and then you drive, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I'm driving on really rough ground, but I'm not even aware of it. It feels exactly the same as when I was on the highway 10 minutes before. And you go, that is really, that's impressive. If you were in a regular car, you'd be bouncing about. This thing just went straight through it. Anyway, ridiculous.
Yeah, the Rivian does that too. The Rivian there's off-road mode, and you put it in off-road mode, and it just absorbs every bump. You're driving, and it's normally you'd be doing this and bouncing around, and it's just like in a Cadillac Escalade or something. You just feel smooth sailing. Yeah,
but then that was
incredible. I mean, I think. Go ahead.
I love the experiment you did where you made it. Well, you ran out and then you tried to tow it and all that stuff. Because that's crazy. That did look like like a really good, exciting experiment until it was a real pain in the butt.
That was so disappointing. I really thought if I could get it in drive, because then the next video we showed how we were able to do it. But we had to be able to put the vehicle in drive. And for whatever reason, when the battery's totally dead, they will not let you put it in drive. And to me, and I've talked with Rivian about this, because there's a few other things like that where I'm just thinking, man, if you're selling features in an adventure vehicle, you want to go be out in the mountains and be off-roading and be away, then I need to be able to have total control over this vehicle in case I need to do whatever it is I need to do. So they have all these safety mechanisms built in, like that one. And I'm just thinking, man, I'm next to a road, so fine, a tow truck can come take me. But if I'm up in some mountain where a tow truck can't go, what am I going to do? And if you would let me put it in drive, it's just it's just software that says yes or no. If you let me do that, I could be completely saved. And so to me, I think like I don't know if it'll change, but I've had a lot of talks with them. Then they have this idea of, oh, these are all safety measures, whatever. And I say, fine. But if you want to take maybe, Jeep is a great adventure style off-roading brand. And I feel like I could buy a Jeep Wrangler and they'll give me a box of tools to take the whole damn thing apart if I want to.
Right.
I could take the windshield off if I want to. So I feel like if they really want to embrace this adventure mindset and people going out there, you can't really handcuff people to what you can do. And that's what, to me, that video highlighted was, man, if you're stuck in this thing, you are stuck.
Yes.
And I don't think that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
You know?
But then you did, in the second video, you did tow it, didn't you? I can't remember. Yes. Did you tow it and it did charge when you were towing it?
Correct. Yeah. So
right. Okay.
After being stuck, we had to tow it to a charger. Right. And we got enough juice in it to be able to then put it in drive.
Right.
Once we were able to put it in drive, I hooked it up to my buddy's truck, Jehu, and he towed me. And for every 1 mile that of distance that we traveled, I received 3 miles worth of juice in the truck, of energy, of range.
Right.
So that was incredible.
Yeah.
You know.
But
so for me,
but wasn't he towing you in another Rivian? That's right. Well,
he was. Yeah, he was in a Rivian. But the whole point was there was a fast charger about 12 miles away.
Right.
So all I had to do was he had to tow me for 4 miles down this dirt road in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was good to go. So that was the point. The point, wasn't
with you
that this is an efficient way of charging it.
No.
I suppose if he had a big diesel truck and he could just refill, that'd be fine. But the idea was you're stuck. How do you get unstuck?
Yeah.
It turns out you can't. If you're stuck, you're stuck with that thing.
Yeah.
But then if you weren't a dummy like me and drove it to absolute zero and you could still put it in drive, someone could tow you a few miles and then you could drive to an actual charger. And so that was the idea,
Yeah.
And I thought that experiment went really well. I mean, it was very unexpected, and I think that's the point of doing them. You know what I mean? Like this style of filmmaking, has to be interesting, right? Because I have an actual filmer now, and we sit down and we try to think, what's the story? How are we going to tell the story? What's going to happen? How are we going to shoot it? How are we going to edit it? We try to think of all that in advance.
Yeah.
And then you get there and everything goes sideways.
Everything goes absolutely. So that has happened so many times. Then you go,
Whereas, if we're shooting a TV show, broadcast TV show, no, we have lighting, we have a script, we have it's all very planned out. So this style of filmmaking I find super fun because of the unknown nature of it. It's not quite reality TV. Like we have a plan, but this plan is definitely going to go sideways at some point, and we're going to have to just roll with it, figure it out.
But it's also very important to point out that reality TV, in very large inverted commas, there's always a script. They don't tell you. I mean, there's not a script of what people say, but they're, especially with kind of, it's called scripted reality, isn't it? What, like the Kardashians? What we want you to do is sit around the kitchen table. You both got coffees, and you're going to talk about how you feel about whatever the hell, whatever the topic. And that
that happened.
Yes, yes, this huge drama that we're just going to anyway. Yeah, but that
they're just not paying people is what they're doing.
Yes, yeah. But tell me because you did the one car that we can both definitely get is the Kia EV6, because I was blown away when I saw that. The two things I want to talk about is South Korea and China. So South Korea first. So I think the Hyundai and Kia are really interesting cars. So we had a Kona for 4 years, and it was just such a reliable, solid, boring.
Yeah,
you could say that, but really reliable car that did regularly. I would get 5.5+ miles to the kilowatt hour in the summer, not in the winter, but in the summer.
Wow,
that is amazing. That's
crazy.
And it's still quite. It's not a really big car, but it's quite a sort of chunky box. It's not a super streamlined thing. Really amazing, but regularly. And my wife doesn't drive. She's not an eco driver. And she would not, and she wouldn't know. But I'd have a look when she'd driven to London back maybe 220 miles, something like that. I'd check it out, and she'd done 4.6 miles to the kilowatt hour. And that is thrashing it on the freeway. No, absolutely not a care in the world. She's not interested in it. And if I drove it carefully, I could get over 5. You had to be a bit careful to get over 5, but it was doable. Yeah, it's amazing. And then the Kia EV6 and the Ioniq 5 drove both of them, and I liked them, but they were not as economic because they're bigger cars. They're quite. I was shocked at how big they were. But did you actually drive the EV6? Did you have the?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've done both. So I went up to their they had a first event and went up there with them, up in the mountains, up in Napa area and all this, which was always kind of ironic to me because Kia to me still seems like this cheap Korean brand, not this luxury thing. But the younger generation totally sees Kia in a different light than I do. Or you probably do as well, right?
Me too. Oh no, absolutely.
But they've completely turned the corner on that. So they're very much trying to be like a really high end, clean, modern tech brand. And I think they've done a good job. Yeah. So I went up there and I drove it in Napa with their team. And then they gave me one for a week after that. So I had it for a full week. My wife drove it. I was thoroughly impressed. I think in the US right now, my pick outside of a Tesla would be for a car, not a truck, would be a Mustang Mach-E. Would be my number one.
Yeah.
And then my number two would be an EV6. And I would say people should check out both of them because the EV6, I would say that the things of it I loved were the tech side of it.
Yeah.
The heads-up display, Apple CarPlay, the way they had this little capacitive touch buttons. I mean, just they really have done a tremendous job at the design. I really, really love the interior there. And then, and I didn't drive the Ioniq 5. I had one on schedule to be delivered, but they did something happened and they had to take it away. So I haven't, and at this point it's like, well, it's old news. So I don't know if I'm going to but I'm a fan. I think Kia, I highly recommend check out the EV6 because I think, especially for the price and the fact that it's available, like that blew me away. I was up there at the event with them this before Super Bowl. So January-ish, late January. And I said, okay, so this is all great, but when are they going to be available? And then, well, all people that ordered should have it within 2 weeks.
Right.
And I'm going, what? Normally I'll do a first drive event and it's a year away.
At least a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and even today, it's funny because I posted that video. A friend of mine who also makes YouTube videos texted me and said, hey, I saw your video. We had a Model Y in order. I went and drove the EV6 and then I drove home with it that day. Wow. And I just said, hallelujah. That's incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
He said he had to pay a dealer markup of like $3,000, which wasn't that big of a deal. So anyways, I looked at it and I'm a fan. I think Kia is doing and Hyundai are doing an amazing job. And I think they're making really compelling cars.
Because the thing we're sort of very aware of because of Elliot, the guy we've got in China, is what's happening there is, you may have seen some of them, but the fact that they are, it's when he tells me about a car, I've never heard of the company. They didn't exist 5 years ago, and they've so far made 750,000 cars. And you go, oh my God. So I'm thinking they've made a prototype, and they've made one other one that they test. No, they've already sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Almost a million,
I mean, we saw the Xpeng P7 in Amsterdam at Fully Charged Live in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be snooty about Chinese cars and going, well, they're not up to the quality that we're used to in North America and Europe.
Right.
Oh my God, that car was really, really impressive. I mean, has very, I mean, you can argue about whether they just stole everything from Tesla. It's very like a Model 3. About the same size, it has a very similar look, similar screen. It's a bit faster, 0 to 60. It goes a bit further on one charge. Wow. And it's about, I don't know, even in Europe, it's about 10,000 euros cheaper than a Model 3. So then you think that's quite a tough competition. And
it's compelling.
It's very difficult because the price in China, we're never going to see those prices in Europe or North America. But I mean, I think the size and scale of the Chinese automotive industry is really, we're just not aware of it, I think.
It seems like, exactly. No, I completely, every time I see stuff coming out of China, I'm blown away by it. And then the price and the specs, I'm just, what is this? If in, well, I don't know if you know, but right now in the US, we have huge tariffs and things from Chinese.
Yeah, that's it.
All kinds of Chinese products. So if that were to go away, I absolutely would expect a flood of cheap, high quality, long range EVs coming to the US. And that would be a win as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if the government would allow it, right? Because they try to protect local industries and stuff. But anyways, I mean, yeah, and I think Elliot did one. Was it the P7? It has a refrigerator in the back.
I think that might have been the Neo, because the Neos are the real sort of high-end ones. And that's the other thing is, you know, we saw that battery swap that Tesla did. They swapped one battery. The Neo have swapped something like 6 million batteries. They've done 6 million battery swaps. You know, you go, oh my God, and there's battery swapping stations all over China. And you go, that's just all that stuff is
incredible. I love it, you know, and it's interesting because when I talk about these things on my videos, I get all the Tesla people coming in saying, oh, that's a terrible idea, that'll never work. And then you say it's worked 6 million times.
It's kind of difficult.
It's working.
It is definitely.
You know, the data is compelling there. But you know, it's exciting. I mean, and China, of course, is a big market. I mean, I think they're the biggest overall by just sheer volume. But I mean, I think we're really at the brink of it, you know. And isn't it great, Robert, that, you know, how long we've been looking at this, pushing, trying to push this flywheel, get this thing going. And we're fine. Like last year, I think it was 5% of new cars in the US were electric. That's massive. A huge number. And it's a tipping point, right? There's all these statistical models about 5%, like in Norway, when they hit 5%, that's when it took off.
Kind of really went off.
So, but you know, of course, we're resource constrained and supply constrained, and recession, global recession potential. Right. Geopolitical issues. Right. There's all kinds of like.
Well, our energy. The energy cost in the UK. It was a report. The last couple of mornings on the kind of news feed have been like actually terrifying of how much it's going to cost to heat your home and to have electricity. You know, the cost of electricity has gone insane.
Has it?
Just incredible rises. Just unbelievable. And I just don't know how people are going to stay alive this winter. You know, it's going to be so tough.
And then with Russian oil not coming in, right, and Russian gas, like that's going to be a big challenge.
But I mean, that's the thing. The thing that is so hard to kind of comprehend is that we actually don't, but we do buy gas and oil from Russia, but it's a very small percentage of our total imports. But it's still, it's about 18 billion pounds a year goes to the Russian economy from here. And you go, that's maybe that is small, but it's still quite a lot of money, you know. But,
it's not zero.
No, it's not
far from zero.
But I mean, the thing is, even if we didn't buy any oil, gas from Russia, the price of gas has gone up globally. So it doesn't matter where it comes from, actually. But we just had this double whammy of the warnings of how much it's going to cost. And then the two companies, so Centrica, which is the biggest gas supplier in the UK, and Shell have just posted, you know, eye-watering profits. Just mind-boggling.
Right.
You know, the sort of GDP of a fairly large nation. That's their profit for the last quarter. You know, just billions and billions. And you go, this is kind of and that is, in a way, feeds back to what we've been saying, and I've been arguing for years, is there's a lot of reasons to try and stop burning fossil fuel, not just pollution, not just air quality or CO2 or global, you know, climate change. There's the kind of global economics of it are crazy. When it goes a bit squiffy, like there's one nutter in the Kremlin invades another country, and you go, the knock-on effects of that have been horrendous, absolutely instantly.
It's you know, and this is the geopolitical shift from globalism to populism, right? Where we kind of go back and forth. As soon as we realize that we are totally dependent on everyone else, and if someone else starts to disrupt that, it affects everyone. All of a sudden, everyone goes, "Hey, well, let me do my own thing. Let me make it myself." And I don't know if it's bad. It's how how history presses, right? But
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, I did a video a while ago that I know a lot of my audience was really upset about, but I was kind of pointing out that we're heading into an era like, well, despite EVs being better than they've ever been and cheaper than they've ever been and more prevalent than they've ever been here in the US, we're heading into a time when EVs might struggle to gain momentum. And I say that because if we're into a recession where we have huge inflation, loan money is more expensive because interest rates are going up, and the average price of an EV is 30% higher than a gas car, because people, despite gas being really expensive right now, and I know that's funny, me saying that, where gas is some of the cheapest as it is in the whole world, but like gas being more expensive than it was previously, I think people still look at it and go, yeah, but I'm not going to pay $60,000 for a car.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So I don't have to buy gas. Yeah, that's a lot of gas, basically. $60,000 buys quite a lot of gas.
And when you're worried about your job or your mortgage and rent and food, and I mean, it's just, you know, I think it falls down the list of priority, unfortunately. So
big time.
I'm really excited because it is better than ever, but I'm also a bit cautious about saying EVs are going to be here and everyone's going to love them. It's like, the geopolitical and socioeconomic reality may not support that same.
I mean, I think it'll be. I think it'll be a dip in the hockey. It'll be a chunk out of the hockey stick. I think that just the technology, you know, you and I know, and I think that's why it'll win. The technology is better. That's my argument. Is the technology is actually better, and the more you don't use a combustion engine, the more you go, God, that's not very good technology. It's nothing to do with anything else. Forget, you know, so in a sense, it's forget the pollution, forget the oil industry and everything. It's just not very good technology. Whenever I go back into, I've just written a thing for a newspaper in the UK about, you know, a few days going back deliberately to drive. I rented a petrol car, you know, a gas car with a manual gearbox. And I went, God, this is really rubbish. It's just rubbish technology. It's really not very good. And I drove cars like that for 45 years, maybe 50, you know, a long time. So I'm used to them, but I'd forgotten what they're just on. You traffic on a hill, You stop on a hill and you've got to start again. You handbrake and clutch, and oh God, it's difficult. You know, that's just...
I think, and I think you're right. That's why EVs are winning or gaining momentum. It is not because we're all hippies and tree huggers or whatever. It's because they're just better. You know. You have these gearhead love fast performance cars.
Sure.
The performance car market has been conquered by electric cars. There aren't, I mean, my Rivian will beat a Porsche 911 in a drag race.
That's crazy.
It will beat the next closest gas performance truck, the Ram TRX, by half a football field.
Wow.
It's just insane. So you look at it and you just go, well, okay, if you like performance, you have to go electric. You want off-roading ability, you have to go electric. You know, there are a couple cases where electric isn't there yet, like let's say long distance hauling of cattle or something. Fine. Everyone else, no matter what your needs are, electric is better. It's just better, right? So the only worry I have is the economic stuff, you know, because people can't afford it, they're not going to buy it, no matter how much they want it, you know. So, but if we can get past that, and hopefully the world can stabilize in a few years, and whatever else can calm down, then I think we can be on that hockey stick can really grow.
No, I think,
and hopefully by then things get cheaper and cheaper, right? We do get these, or like VinFast is a good example. I don't know if you've seen them. They're
amazing.
Vietnamese, you know, automaker. Again, you're like, wait, who are they? Oh yeah, they've made 30 million cars to date. You're like, what? Yes. You know, and they just switched all to electric. You're like, what happened? When is this?
No, it is. I think for so for Americans of my generation and a bit older. So if I was American, I'd have just been within the draft to go to Vietnam. You know, I'm at the very bottom end of that of the people who went.
Right.
But if you think of what Vietnam meant to the United States,
Right.
For my generation. I mean, it was such a huge topic. I mean, even for me in this country, and we had nothing to do with it, but we were so aware of it. And now that you can buy a car, really good car, that's made in Vietnam. They did not make cars in Vietnam during that time.
No.
I don't think they made anything. I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. That's come out of there. It is. It's almost like there's a really cool car out of North Korea. I don't think we should wait for that. I think that's doubtful. But it's kind of like that. It's
out of nowhere. You're like, what?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
And then you get in it and you go, oh, okay.
Yes.
But
have you seen a VinFast? I haven't seen one in the flesh. All right.
Yeah. I went to an event with them back in February.
Right.
And I got to sit in it. I didn't get to drive it. This was like at the time the only one in the US.
Right.
And they wanted me to post about it, and I said sure, but I have to get in it and play with it. And they're like, oh, I don't know. And then the team from VinFast, the guys from Vietnam, they said absolutely, here you go.
Right, there you go. Right.
Because and anyway, so yeah, I checked it out. It's really cool. I know that they're progressing really fast. They have sort of a weird model, I think, where you rent your battery or something. I haven't looked at all the details, but yeah, just the fact that we have these options now is so exciting. And, I think if we can get past some of the other issues we talked about, I think the future will be very bright and very, powered by the sun.
I think that's a beautiful ending, Ben. That's perfect.
Well, I appreciate that, Robert.
The future will be wonderful and powered by the sun. Let's leave it there. It's been a joy. Well, I'm so excited that we're going to see you. I'm going to come and see you soon. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Let's make sure to get some time together.
And thank you so much for today. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, that was a fantastic chat. I love talking to Ben. It's an absolute joy. What a dude. Amazing stuff that he's doing. If you search Ben Sullins on YouTube, you'll find his channel. He's really, really, he's got a lovely manner about him. He's a real delight to see. And I can't wait to see him. Can't wait to see him on the 10th and 11th of September. Where are you going to see him, Robert? Well, I'm going to be seeing him at Fully Charged Live USA in the San Diego Convention Center in beautiful Southern California. Oh, you're very lucky to go there. Yes, I am. Incredibly lucky. I can't believe it. It's amazing. I'm so thrilled. I can't wait. Okay, that's all. I don't want to go on anymore. Have a little subscribe. Have a little tell your mates. Have a little look at the Patreon link if you feel so inclined. It's in the show notes of this episode. And as always, if you have been, thank you for listening.